Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be I feel so lost in my purpose. What direction should I choose? Well, this particular email is from a guy. He says that I've answered other emails from him in the past. And I think one of the last ones was covert narcissistic women. And so recently he says he's been doing really well. He's a bartender, makes good money, and he meets a lot of women that way. His friends come to him for advice. So he's hanging out, having fun, and hooking up. But he's a musician at heart. He wants to be in the music industry, and he has a lot of interest in the music industry, but he's just not really focused and sure which direction to go. So he's starting to kind of feel like he's spinning his wheels and not making any progress towards achieving and accomplishing his greatest goals and dreams. And in order to feel successful in life, in order to feel happy and fulfilled, success is making progress. And so if you're going through life and you know what you want, but you look around and it doesn't look like you're making any progress, the one thing you got to remember, and I talk about this a lot in Mastering Yourself, is you got to remember things take like a decade or more at least. And so success is a process. It's not an end goal. You can't look at accomplishing the things you want and say, okay, I'm going to be happy when this happens. I'm going to be happy when I succeed. I'm going to be happy when I have in this case, a number one song. Or I'm going to be happy when I get my band together. I'm going to be happy when I make my first million. And you can't look at it that way, because if that's the case, if your goal is way far off in the future, you still have to get through all the days, weeks, months, years, and decades in order for that to become a reality someday down the road. And so you got to feel like you're making progress towards the things that you want in life. Because again, if it feels like you're not making any progress after a long period of time, it starts to feel hopeless. And so day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year, you have to have emotionally compelling reasons why you get up and do what you do. And one of the things I talk about in Mastering Yourself is modeling the success of other people. And so like in this case, this guy wants to go in the music industry, but there's a lot of different jobs in the industry. You can play guitar, you can play an instrument, you can play, maybe you write music, maybe you sing, maybe you're a producer, maybe you work in the business of music. And so there's a lot of career paths. And so we're always going to work hardest at things we really love and we really enjoy, things that we find fun. Because if we enjoy our work and we find it fun, we'll work harder at it, we'll stay up late, we'll work long hours, we'll work for no money for many years or decades just because we have fun doing it, and our payoff is always going to be down the road in achieving the things that we want. But again, you got to be able to look around in your life as the years roll by and feel like you're making some kind of progress. But the reality is, when it comes to achieving big goals and dreams, most of the time it kind of feels like you're not really getting anywhere. You're not really making any progress. I talked about in Mastering Yourself, a really great biography that you should read by Walter Isaacson is the one from Steve Jobs, or about Steve Jobs, because he goes through the process of Pixar Pictures. And this is one of the things we were discussing recently in the Mastering Yourself study group in the members area videos with the girls, and just the process, because Steve Jobs basically got kicked out of Apple in the early 80s, and he walked away with these, or I think it was $100 or $200 million. And so he bought the technology for Pixar originally from George Lucas, because he had invented it to use it to edit the original Star Wars films from the 70s and the early 80s as part of Lucasfilm. And I think he sold it to Steve, the technology, for $5 million, because Steve was so blown away by the animation technology and what it could do. He was like, this is so cool. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but man, it could be, there's just a great technology here. And so he bought the technology without knowing how the hell he was going to monetize it. And so for a period of time, he tried to sell it to corporations, and he tried to come up with some kind of value proposition that would cause people to want to invest in his company and buy his product or his service or use the software. And so he spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time, came up with different ways and ideas of trying to go to different businesses and say, hey, you could really use this. It could help your business. But he just had a hard time getting traction. And so meanwhile, his burn rate is continuing and he wasn't working. He had his money that he had left over from Apple when he basically walked out with his golden parachute. And so when you don't have positive cash flow coming in those cases, you have a certain amount of capital to allocate to that. And so he was allocating money to Pixar, but he was also allocating capital to Next Computer, which ultimately later on down the road became the operating system that we all know and love on the Mac. But, that's another part of the story. And so when you look at all the years and, that time period in Steve's life, people kind of called it Steve Jobs' time alone in the wilderness, because he was all over the news. He was like Elon Musk back in his day, and then all of a sudden, for many years, he was just, what happened to that guy? He just kind of, the founder of Apple was like, where'd he go? He grew his beard out and kind of disappeared, even though he was working on businesses, but nobody was paying attention because he was spending money and trying to figure out his business model. And so after he'd been at it for 6-7 years, he was just like, man, I've spent all this money, tens of millions of dollars. His friends are like, well, you really gave it a good effort, Steve. You might as well, throw that away and go do something else, because that obviously clearly isn't working out for you. But he believed in technology. He just figured there's got to be something that we can use this amazing technology for. And so one time, I believe what I remember is that they did a little short film, and I don't know if it was the animated light or whatever it was. It was like a little short animated thing. And after they did that, he was thinking to himself, man, this would really make a great animated movie. Well, who makes great animated movies? Disney. So he thought, who's the best animated movie maker in the world? Well, at the time, obviously, it was Disney. So he thought, we should take this technology and see if we can partner with Disney. And so he went and he showed this little short film to the Disney executives, and they were blown away by it. They thought, wow, this is really impressive. And so the wheels started turning. So they got together with script writers, and they ended up coming up with a script for a movie, and that's what became Toy Story. And so keep in mind, when he bought Pixar, I think it was like 1983 or maybe it was 1985, when he actually bought it, he paid $5 million for it. And so by the time he's year 7, year 8, he spent most of his fortune, and he's still got nothing to show for it. But at that point, he was working with Disney on Toy Story. And then so in 1995, we're 10, 11, 12 years after he first bought this technology and had this idea, Toy Story opens, and it's the most successful, most profitable animated movie in history. And then I think it was about 90 days, or within 90 days, he took Pixar Pictures public, and it became like a $1.3 or $1.4 billion company because of the stock prices rocketing up. And so he had tens of millions of dollars invested in it, and now this movie takes off, and he's got $1 billion company on his hands. And so now everybody's talking about Steve Jobs again in Pixar Pictures, and it was within the next year, I think it was 96, when he came back to Apple as the interim CEO, and they were like 90 days away from going bankrupt and going out of business basically at that point. And so the point with the story is that there was a long process. There was a decade of basically spending a lot of money, burning a lot of capital, and the naysayers going, what an idiot, he's lost his mind, he's screwing around with this stupid animation software, who does he think he is? And then, of course, Toy Story comes out, is incredibly successful, Pixar goes public, and now it's $1 billion company. And then everybody's like, wow, what a genius. But they didn't see all the suffering and all the not working and pretty much not hearing from him for the better part of a decade. And so he just kept constantly trying to change his approach. But when he got 6, 7 years into it, it was like, again, he was like, who is the best in the business at this? Oh, let me partner with Disney. Showed him a short animated movie. They were like, wow, this is incredible. We got to do a movie with this kind of technology. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. And so it all worked out. But he could have given up in year 7 and then pissed away $80, $100 million for what? Nothing. He would have had nothing to show for it. And people would have said, you were an idiot. You were rich. You were set for life. You spent all your money in this company that went nowhere. But he believed in himself, and he kept moving forward, even though it looked like it was hopeless for a long time. It looked like they were never going to come up with a product. It looked like it was never going to work. But the key with success is you're constantly trying things. You're constantly changing your approach. You're constantly measuring the results and noticing what you're getting, what's working, what's not working. And eventually, you connect enough dots and you figure out a good value proposition like he did. And eventually he did the same thing with Next Computer and rolled that into Apple. I think Apple acquired Next Computer to basically get the operating system, and that became the Mac operating system that we all know and love, and that basically is helping me film and edit these videos. So when you look, if you're going to do anything in life, it's like, who are the most successful people in your industry? And what are you most passionate about? And I want to tell you another story about a client who was a very successful, very well-known actor. And if I told you some of the parts he'd been in and some of the actors he had played movies with, one of them being the great Denzel Washington, who I think is just the best actor in the world. He's the man. I think he's the most talented actor on the planet, in my opinion. And so when this guy was young, he was doing videos with people like Denzel Washington and other very famous people. And I told you some of the movies he was in, you know exactly who he was. But he got kind of sidetracked years later. He was taking care of his kids. He had to kind of step away from his acting career in Hollywood to help raise his children. And then many years later, when he wanted to get back into acting, they were like, well, what have you done lately? And so it's like he had to start all over again, and he focused on grinding and working and being in little bit parts here and there, TV shows here and there. And he loved the business, so he loved the business of making movies. And there was a point where he was like, I'm just going to give up. It's like, maybe I had my 15 minutes of fame, and that's it, and it's all over for me. But he kept working at it, and eventually he just, in the nature of being an actor, he came across some other actors and producers, and eventually he started a production company with them. And so even though he's not a main guy in the movies that he was in anymore, he was a producer and started his own production company and made some good connections and some business partners with other people that had the same passion in the industry. And so he took his talents and he changed his approach and looked at the problem differently. And so he saw an opportunity to start a production company and to make a bunch of movies with his friends and his partners. They had money, they had financing, they had everybody they went into business with brought a great piece to the puzzle, or a great piece of the pie, if you will, to make a complete pie, because it's like each partner brought something that was really important and really key. And so he's still an actor, but in the movies that he does and he produces, he just does small bit parts. Sometimes he's got a short part and he gets killed off in the movie. But he still loves it. He loves the business, the movie making business. But originally he was focused on, I'm only going to be an actor. I can only be an actor. This is what I'm meant to do. And just in the process of grinding and becoming a better actor and trying to get back into the business and get back on top in his career, he came across a business opportunity with other people to kind of make a lateral move and work more behind the scenes, work behind the camera in the industry, because he wasn't so fixated in being retentive that I've got to be an actor and that's it. That's all I can do. And so he was willing to change his approach. He looked at the market. He knew what people were willing to do. And he had all these opportunities with these guys that want to go into business with him. He's like, this is a perfect fit. And, to date, they've been very successful, had a lot of other famous people in their movies. And it's like, I'm really proud of the guy. It's like, I just remember talking to him many years ago. He's ready to give up and pull the plug on his career. And all he really needed was another idea, another little way to change his approach. And it's kind of like what I wrote about in Mastering Yourself when I was in real estate. And I kind of hit the wall with my business partners. And I kind of there was like a ceiling. I couldn't make any more money than I was making just because of the way we had set things up in our business. And so I thought, well, we got a mortgage company, we got a holding company, we got a real estate brokerage. Instead of just doing foreclosure properties, why don't we start a business just doing regular real estate sales and listings? And since we got a mortgage company, we can also do mortgages for it. And so I changed our advertising a little bit to just bring in regular buyers and created a business within a business, or another division of our company. I could have just said, screw it, I'm going to leave and go do my own thing and work for myself. But my business partners and I were really good together at the time, even though one of my partners, Paul, I wrote about in the book, was trying to push me out the door. And eventually got to the point where my side of the business was doing better than theirs. And then he wanted to kick our other partner, James, out and just be in business with me, because at that point it was doing really well. And he's like, I just want to ride your coattails, Corey. He would say that to me. And so the point being is that, and when you think, there's a great quote by Wayne Dyer said many years ago. He says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And another thing that Einstein said was, thinking creates problems the same kind of thinking will not solve. So with those long stories and that long diatribe in mind here, let's take that mindset, let's take those strategies, and let's look at this guy's email and see what he can do, because he loves the music business, but again, he feels like he's kind of spinning his wheels. So in a lot of ways, it reminds me of my client, the actor, where he was at before he kind of changed his approach and made a lateral move and started working behind the scenes. So he says, hey, Corey, you've answered many of my emails in the past, chronicling my last relationship with my gorgeous but toxic ex-girlfriend. My last email you answered was covert narcissistic women. I believe my ex was also borderline. I learned she'd been cheating on me for months, on top of the constant abuse and threatening to ruin my life and fake sexual assault charges. Man, you really got to pay attention to who you allow into your life, and make sure that when you see toxic people, you get them out of your life, because there are women out there that will really screw your life up and not feel guilty at all. I saw a clip, I think it was a Dr. Phil clip. It was on Twitter the other day, and it was this black guy that had been in prison for something like 17 years, I think it was. And this woman had falsely accused him of, I gotta be careful with the words, of assault. And so he got sent away to prison for something he didn't do. And I guess at some point she later recanted. And so Dr. Phil was getting the two of them together on camera, and she looked remorseful, but I mean, she literally took 2 decades of this guy's life away unjustly. And you think, well, quite frankly, she should spend 17 years in jail for what she did to that poor guy. But there are crazy women out there that'll do shit like that, and they won't feel any remorse. And they'll be fine letting you sit in prison and rot. I mean, Kamala Harris did that. There were guys that she sent to prison that were later found out to be innocent. And she knew they were innocent, but she wouldn't do anything to let them out of prison because she didn't want to drop her conviction rate. She's a fucking psychopath. So that evil bitch woman knew there were innocent men in jail that she had put there, and she did nothing. She let them suffer because she didn't want it to damage her conviction rate, because that might cause a problem and keep her from getting elected. So obviously you guys know I'm not a Kamala Harris fan. She's a dirtbag. Not a good person. Not an honorable human being at all. You do that shit to somebody, it's like, that's just wrong. And she felt no remorse for it. So there are human beings out there that are like that will screw you over badly in that way. And that's why when you come across people that behave this way or say these things, it's like you got to get them out of your life as quickly as possible. So he says, needless to say, life has been miles better since I moved out, but it really broke me down. I'm about 3 months out of the breakup, which was at the end of February. Since the breakup, I've been killing it with women, having fun with friends. I'm working as a bartender in New York City while pursuing my ambitions in music, and even my boss at one of my jobs noticed how hot women will stick around while I'm working because I flirt with them and they like me. I usually get 4 to 5 numbers a week working and have hooked up with a couple of girls I just met in the bar bathroom. He says fun, but a little too wild for where I'm at now. My friends know I attract women left and right. It helps that I'm tall and attractive, but having read 3% Man 28 times, I know what I'm doing. I still get rejected and find girls who are uninterested, but I usually find another girl who is interested a day or two later. Yeah, there's another bus every 15 minutes. If one girl says no, well, maybe the next one will say yes. Again, thinking about my actor client who just kept getting a lot of no's, and then an opportunity came along. He was like, this could be a great opportunity. And it is. So he got to achieve his goal, not just being an actor, but also working. He still gets to be an actor, but now he gets to work behind the scenes, be a producer, raise money, get a bigger percentage of the box office take, and those kinds of things, because he was flexible. He was willing to change his approach. He was willing to look at what was working in his strategy and what wasn't working in his strategy. And we have to remember, we all get paid based upon the value that we bring to the marketplace. We get paid for our reserve of knowledge and developing our gifts, our skills, and our talents. He says, overall, I feel incredibly competent with women thanks to you. However, I am so lost in my purpose. My ex destroyed my confidence and self-esteem to the point where I don't even have a clear vision for my life. I know it's music, but I'm not sure where to go. I live in New York City, and I have skills in production, songwriting, performing, and booking gigs. I could manage, be a producer, songwriter, artist, etc., but I'm so lost on a direction. Well, if you love all of those, do all of them. Don't just pigeonhole yourself to say, I'm only going to be a songwriter, or I'm only going to be a producer, or I'm only going to be an artist, or I'm only going to be a drummer, or I'm only going to be a guitar player. You have to look at the totality and take a step back, just like my client did when he kind of let go of, I can only be an actor, and look at, okay, well, I can be a producer, I could be a director, I could write, I can work on distribution. There are many different ways that you can specialize or you contribute. And if you ever watch movies, you'll notice that, especially like you look at somebody like Tom Hanks. When he does a movie, he's not only just in a starring role oftentimes, sometimes he directs, sometimes he's a producer, sometimes he's an executive producer. He does multiple functions. He wears many hats. Or look at somebody like Ron Howard, who was great in front of the camera, but for the most part, in the last 40 years, he's mostly always been behind the camera. And so again, you get paid based upon the value that you bring to the marketplace. And so if you love being a producer, keep being a producer. If you love being a songwriter, keep doing that. If you love being an artist, keep doing that. You're in the music business. So who are the most successful people in the business, and how are they making their money? I mean, you look at the big moguls in the business, and even if they're a great successful artist, they typically also produce other acts. They also do distribution. They also tour. So if you're in the music business, one of the biggest ways people make money, especially bands, is touring. Having people come to your concert and paying based upon where they sit. That determines your ticket price. Plus, they sell merchandise. Then they have VIP events where you can pay a little bit extra money. Maybe you can meet the band backstage and do pictures, those kinds of things. Or maybe you hang out with them before the show and after the show in the green room or whatever happens to be. Maybe a dinner. It's just You can have different levels to where people can have access to you. So there's a lot of ways to monetize things. And so as a person who loves music and all of these different things, who are the people that are making the most money producing music? Who are the people that are making the most money songwriting? Who are the people making the most money performing? Who are the people making the most at booking gigs? And look at how they monetize their career and their lives. That's what you need to be looking at instead of just picking one or the other. We know you love music. We know that's your passion. Bartending is great because it helps you with your people skills. It helps you with the ladies. That grows your confidence. And what is confidence? Confidence is simply doing what you know how to do and doing it really well. So I would continue to do all the above and see where it goes. Because if you love writing songs, but you're also an artist and you're also a producer, maybe you run into somebody who's an artist and you write a song together that becomes a big hit. That's why you should do all of them and see where the opportunities bubble up. Like when I was in real estate, I basically hit the wall in the foreclosure business. I was like, well, what else? I love real estate. I love construction. What else can I do? Well, we have a mortgage company. We have a real estate company. And we were getting buyers who didn't necessarily buy the houses that we were trying to flip, but they were still good buyers. So we started selling them properties that were also in the multiple listing service and providing the loans for them. So I saw an opportunity because I was working in the business, and that's the important thing. So you need to lose yourself in the music business and all the aspects that you love about it and interact with it and the people in the industry and find ways that you can specialize, because when you're doing that, when you're in the process of that, that's when opportunities will come to you, like they did to my client who has been a successful actor for 30 something years, whatever it is. Even though he just does mostly small bit parts now and a lot of his movies, he gets to scratch all of his itches. And he makes a lot more money this way because now he's in front of the camera and behind the camera because he was flexible and willing to change his approach. And so that's the way you need to look at it. Your job is to add value. You have a lot of different ways you can add value. You're a producer, you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you can manage, you can book gigs. So I'd say do all the above, see where the money goes. I've been very distracted by women and having fun with friends, and I've made far less progress in music than I have before. All you're really lacking is one idea. Just keep changing your approach until enough of the dots connect and things line up and opportunities come in. Because it's never usually like one huge breakthrough. We all heard about Toy Story when it came out because everybody was talking about it. But prior to Toy Story coming out, nobody had any idea what the hell Steve Jobs was doing, where he was at, what he was up to, other than people that were really close to him. It's all we knew was like the Elon Musk of our day just disappeared for the better part of a decade. And all of a sudden he shows back up with this amazing new company. But we don't see all the struggle and all the money and all the frustration and all the failure that it took a decade to work out. We only heard about the success when the movie took off. And then 90 days later, when the company went public, and he went from being broke to being a billionaire in essence. And then what was interesting was when he sold Pixar Pictures to Disney several years later, he and his family became the largest shareholders of Disney. I think they sold it for, 8 or 10 billion, I think it was. So I don't know how many tens of millions he put into it, but that was a pretty good return on investment. He became a multi-billionaire just on that one company, not even including what he did with Apple. So he says, I'm 25. It's like, dude, you're still a baby. Give me a break. You got nothing. You're just barely getting started. And while I'm working through the trauma of the relationship with my therapist, I'm still feeling a bit broken down. You know why? Because inaction breeds fear and doubt. Taking action breeds confidence and courage. And you're simply not busy enough taking action to find opportunities where you can get compensated for being a producer, a songwriter, an artist, a manager, booking gigs, all the things that you're good at. How should I approach this? Get busy. Do more of what you love. Do more of the things in the music industry. That's 5 or 6 different jobs, 5 or 6 different careers that you have the ability to work in. I'm making great money as a bartender, but I have a much higher ambitions in music. I have to move on at some point. I graduated top of my class from what is essentially an Ivy League school and worked at one of the best recording studios in the world and soaked in every ounce of knowledge I could. That's what you need to do. Who's making money in the recording studios? How are they making money? Who are the people that come through there that are making the most money, and why? I know I'm made for bigger things. It's been too easy to meet and go out with women, and it's becoming a major distraction. Well, as Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. So you should budget time to go blow it out and have fun and rock out with your cock out with these different girls that you're meeting and bartending. But for the most part, you got to get busier. You got to do more. You got to work more at producing. You got to work more at songwriting. You got to work more at becoming a better artist. All the things you have a passion for. And again, model the success of other people who are succeeding at the highest level in your industry. And if you worked at a major studio, there are plenty of people that obviously you would have seen come through there that you can know, you can talk to, you can pick their brain, you can ask them for advice. And who knows, maybe one of these people just really likes you and they connect and they like your producing, or they like the way you play your instrument, or the way you sing. And then you do a collaboration, and then next thing you know, you're selling lots of records, or there's 10 other artists lining up wanting to work with you. All you need is one opportunity, one idea, so keep looking. Corey, I know this is a good problem to have, but it's a real struggle for me. I don't want to lose my youth to pleasures and miss out on building the life I really want for myself. Producing for artists could be a good option, as I have a couple of artists I'm producing for now. Well, that's exactly what you should be doing. You're just getting upset that it's going really slow. You're 25, bro. Jesus Christ. I didn't graduate college till I was 25. And I've been working in the industry since I was 22. So by the time I graduated college, I already had 3 years of construction experience, construction management experience. And so when I graduated, I had experience, I had connections in the industry, I had lots of opportunities, and by my social contacts that I made in college going to FIU, that enabled me to get my job at Syntax Rooney because I knew so many people that worked there and had worked with me in the industry, so they saw how good I was. And so it's like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, make yourself necessary to somebody. Become so valuable, so useful, that there's no way they would ever consider doing anything else with anybody other than you, because you're just able to add so much more value. Again, think about my acting client who now does everything. He already had talent for that, but the opportunity came along and he changed his approach, and now he's back in the high life again. He says, managing could be an opportunity too, as my friend manages a big indie artist and has good connections. Well, quite frankly, all of the biggest artists, they tend to do all of those things. They tend to work with other artists. Like, you look at like somebody like Toby Keith, who just passed away a few months ago. He did all those things. He was the one who discovered Taylor Swift, after all, and taught her the business. And look how she did well and took off. I'm sure he earned a nice little piece or a chunk from being the guy that discovered her. I mean, she's a billionaire now. So one of your artists could be a future Taylor Swift. So that's why I say do all of these things. As my friend manages a big indie artist and has good connections. It's like you already have the connections. Utilize them more. Lean into that. You already have everything you need. It's right there. You just need to connect with all these people and find a way to be of service. Find a way to add value, the most amount of value that you can to your artists and your connections, and you will never run out of work. You'll be able at some point to pick and choose who you want to work with. Corey, I appreciate any help you can give. Thank you so much for everything you do. It's helped me beyond words. Well, like I said, that's the strategy. That is the process. It's one that works. I gave you several examples that I know for a fact that this stuff works, even with my own clients, in addition to people like Steve Jobs, when you think about how they did it. So if you guys haven't already signed up for our members-only content, if you go to the video description below this video, there is a link that will take you to my website, or you can go there directly, understandingrelationships.com, click the Plans tab at the top of your screen on any page and choose a membership plan. You can do a monthly plan, or if you choose an annual plan, you get a 7-day free trial with each, so you can kind of see what our content is that you get as a paying member. And so if you choose an annual plan, you get a 25% discount after the 7-day free trial. And so you'll get 6 additional video coaching newsletters that are members only on a weekly basis. You'll get a weekly 3% Man study group podcast. You'll get a weekly Mastering Yourself podcast. And what we do with myself and the girls and the other guys that I work with on those podcasts is we literally go page by page through both books and really discuss them in depth to really help you learn the concepts and the principles that are in there. Plus, we have other special members-only content and interviews that'll be posted, especially stuff that I can't really say publicly just because YouTube and other platforms frown upon that. So you can join on my website, understandingrelationships.com. You can join the members only on YouTube. There's a link for that in the video description below. Or if you would like to consume our members only content on Spotify, there is a link that will take you to Spotify so you can be a paying subscriber on Spotify. And if you got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen on any page and on my website and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.